speed of delivery.
I'll try to keep up.
All right, again, welcome everybody. Hello and thank you for joining us today. My name is Berkenda. Welcome to the Orange Chamber of Commerce November Eggs and Issues meeting. This is our final installment this year, and so what a year we've had. Before we head into introductions, there are a few housekeeping reminders, if I can just flip over here for you guys. So what you'll want to do, those of us who are on Zoom, please make sure that your audio is muted and your video is off because we are on Facebook Live. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Those of you who are joining us from Facebook, we do have a moderator who is in our Facebook page as well. Please go ahead and type any questions that you have in that chat as well. And we'll go ahead and try and get any questions you have answered as quickly as possible. So this morning we have Samuel Johnson with us, Chief Executive Officer of our transportation agencies. Let me just grab that screen. Sorry about that. Okay. So imagine becoming CEO of an organization at the start of a global pandemic. That organization is a public agency that operates toll roads, has bond payment obligations, and major infrastructure projects underway. You have a staff of about 68 people. Your competition is the freeway, and your toll roads parallel these freeways, which are known as some of the most congested freeways in the nation, but are now empty. Suddenly, everyone at home, everyone is at home and very few people are driving. Your job is to keep the agency financially solid, staff employed, and find ways to save money to ensure the agency's stability because no one has any idea how long the pandemic will continue to impact our lives. This is a challenge Samuel Johnson has faced since April. International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association named him a wartime president, and he's done an outstanding job. The agency is on solid financial ground, no one has lost their jobs, and traffic is exceeding expectations. Please join me in welcoming Samuel Johnson. Samuel, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Berkenda. Thanks for asking.
Good. Well, I mean, it's been quite the month. We were supposed to host you in October, exactly 1 month ago. Tell me what happened that week.
Oh, it's all such a blur. There's so many things going on. I can't recall the specifics.
Fires.
The fire. That is right. Man, it feels like the fires were just 2 weeks ago.
I know. I think they finally are just clearing up 2 weeks ago. But yeah, that was actually 1 month ago. I think today they were like happening, like
wow,
actively.
Yeah, the Silverado fires were a big event for us. And I'm very happy and proud of our first responders and the great work we did. Unfortunately, I know we had two of our brave people who were injured fighting that fire. But overall, I think they did a great job in minimizing the impacts to property and saving lives.
Definitely. I agree. And I believe they're still in the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. So,
oh, well, I pray for their speedy recovery.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. So you became CEO or interim CEO almost at the start of the pandemic. What was that like for you?
It was pretty challenging. I mean, coming into a leadership role at that point in time with so many important things going on has been an experience, but I'm very much an optimist, and I view all challenges as opportunities to succeed. And I think TCA definitely reflects that.
Definitely. What do you think, I guess, was as far as challenges at that time, if you could tell me a little bit about your background, because, people
Sure.
hear interim CEO and they're thinking, okay, well, where did this person come from? But I know, as I've seen, that you have a long history in the industry. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us a bit about your background and, where you were at before becoming interim and then now our current CEO at Toll Roads.
Sure. So I've been here at the Toll Roads just about 6 years, and I have about 30 years of experience working in transportation.
Oh, wow.
The majority of that time was spent down in San Diego, working in the Sandag family of agencies. And I'm very fortunate to have worked in a lot of different capacities at different agencies involved with transportation. And those experiences have given me a well-rounded perspective on how transportation works and what you need to do to make it successful. So the first part of my career, I spent time working at a light rail development agency, the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System, seeing how you can develop and construct light rail systems. I also got to experience some time working there with the San Diego Trolley, understanding light rail operations. I also spent some time at San Diego Transit Corporation, understanding how you plan and deliver fixed route transit service and paratransit services. And then, right before coming to TCA, I worked directly within Sandag, and I got to see how all these pieces come together and how an agency can work to enhance the overall quality of life in the community with a key focus on transportation. So I got to understand transportation planning for highways, roads, as well as some other important aspects that affect our quality of lives. During my time at all those agencies, key focus of mine was technology. And a good portion of my career working in technology was on intelligent transportation systems and developing regional consensus on what do we need or what can we do to make the most out of our transportation systems and plan for the future. So I got to work on a lot of cool technologies, everything from traffic lights to ramp meters to contactless smart cars to satellite tracking systems. And what we are at least what I'm very anxious to see come to reality now is connected and autonomous vehicles. So I think all these things are an important part of our future, and they help us make the most of what we have.
Wow, that is a lot as far as the technology. And I feel like a lot of us don't even realize some of the behind the scenes, like all the technology that you mentioned that really goes into thought as far as the tollways and freeways and transportation. We don't really think of that day to day.
That's true. And that should be a good thing. I mean, we want this stuff to work in the background and be just like any other utility. You appreciate it. You don't really know it's there except when it's not working.
Right. I know as far as the tollways, I remember when I first moved to Orange County, the tollways were still, I believe, taking quarters. And so I made many a friend on the tollway, either giving someone change in front of me so I could keep going or getting change from someone else.
Oh, that's very true.
I hope I'm not the only one. I hope that there's somebody out there in Facebook Live or here in our Zoom who can be there, who can understand like my struggle of
right.
You're like on there and that panic sets in as you're getting closer, like, oh no.
Yeah, no, that's a common challenge we have in the industry. And a lot more agencies are exploring the innovation that TCA put forward and moving away from cash and going to all electronic tolling. And I think we were very fortunate to make those decisions many years ago and enable us to enhance our safety capabilities right now while we're dealing with the pandemic.
Right, definitely. I know we have, I think a fast track charge and also the sticker, which is great because you're like, doesn't matter if I have change, I can just keep on going. But I know those early days, it was just like, I sometimes will go through and I just start laughing.
Yes.
Just like the memories.
Right.
So as far as you mentioned some things with like businesses large and small or businesses and partnerships, how do you feel that the toll roads help the community and then businesses as well?
Yeah, transportation overall is an extremely important part of our quality of life. Our ability to move people and to move goods is essential to the way we function as a society and supporting business. So, I always like to tell or share the great story that's here in Orange County. The decisions our visionary leaders made, nearly 30 years ago to protect the future of Orange County and recognizing that investments in transportation were going to be needed to support the direction they thought we were headed, and that we could not wait or rely on dollars from the state or federal government to make those things happen. So we made choices to control our own fate, self-determination, and we also decided to focus on self-reliance. And the formation of the TCA by our 18 member cities and the County of Orange was a critical part in the success that we all enjoy today. So today, our roadway network and the combination of tolled and untolled highways is a big part of what keeps Orange County moving, and TCA is happy to play a role in that.
Definitely. I feel that I love the toll roads, honestly. So so toll roads and freeways.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm sure people hop on an accident sometimes and realize like, oh no, like there's a toll that's going to be assessed for my driving this direction. Why are those roads tolled and not free?
Right. So a couple of key things. First, I always like to thank our engineers. Engineers are amazing people, but they aren't necessarily the greatest folks at marketing. So the term freeway is not intended to cite that it's an untolled road. Freeway is an engineering term that's all having to do with access and whether you have interchanges. So I like to talk about tolled and untolled highways.
Okay.
We need highways in general, again, to support our quality of life and to keep our businesses moving. But the ability to pay for things comes in different forms because all roads have a cost. And the question is, how do you cover that cost? We have a lot of different models. We use sales tax revenue, we use gas tax revenue, and we use direct user-based payments such as tolls to help fund that infrastructure. So they're all good models, and they all have their different aspects that are important. But what we've accomplished here in Orange County took advantage of all three of those models, and that's why our network and our quality of life here is so great.
Definitely. So as far as any challenges you might be facing, I know it seems like with COVID, and especially now, I believe we're in another round of semi shutdown.
Yeah.
It seems to change up to the minute. So please forgive me if I've misspoken that we were all the way shut down and not just partially at this point.
Right.
But how does that affect the toll roads? Because as you mentioned, some things are, I guess, untold, but still being paid for with other taxes. But the toll roads seem to
Right.
have the tolls. How is that affecting the agency?
Yeah, the effect is significant. Definitely, in late March, there in early April, when the stay safe at home orders went in place, the shutdown, as we've described it, uh, all of transportation recognized that right away. There was decreased usage on our roads, decreased usage of transit, decreased usage of transportation service networks like Uber.
Mm.
So for our facilities here in Orange County, they were constructed as choice facilities. All our roads parallel untolled roads. So folks always have the ability to make that choice on how they want to travel, depending on their needs and how important time is to them and reliability. So when the usage on untolled roads drop, the demand for tolled facilities does drop. And that drop was significant in the early beginnings of the pandemic. As I noted, some of our ridership dropped 70 to 80% on our facilities. However, since then, we've seen a gradual recovery of our traffic and revenue, which has been very positive. And today we are at between 70 and 80% of what our pre-COVID numbers were. So we are very confident that we're on a good path. We've learned a lot more about how people like to travel, despite how we all complain about congestion sometimes. I think we all recognize that mobility is extremely important, and we're seeing that in the usage of our toll roads. And you asked me about the challenges. Of course, coming into this new role at this time, there are a lot of challenges, but I'm very fortunate that we have a very capable staff and that we are on very strong financial footing, which is helping us weather the economic challenges of the pandemic, and also allowing the board still the ability to move forward on critical priority capital improvement projects, which are under construction.
Okay. Well, speaking of projects, can you tell me a little bit about some current and future projects that you guys have going on?
Sure. We're very close to opening the Oso Parkway Bridge. This is an important project that will provide direct connectivity between Los Patrones Parkway and the 241 toll road.
Okay.
We worked in close partnership with the Caltrans and the County of Orange to move this project forward. We recognize that having folks exit either Los Patrones or the 241, exit on the ramp, and then have to come back down a ramp on the other side was not ideal in terms of traffic operations, and especially considering that we have a large high school right there in proximity of the bridge. So it was collectively decided that this project had a lot of merit for traffic operations. It definitely had merit in terms of connectivity between the roads, And it also had merits in terms of the design, including additional access for pedestrians and folks who like to bike. And again, with the school there, all these things were important. So that's a great project. I'm looking very much forward to it opening soon. It represents about a $40 million investment from TCA, and TCA was happy to be able to support that without the use of state or federal resources or additional sales tax revenues. So we were able to use our financial strength to fund that project. And this comes on the tail end of our ability to work with the ranch to construct Los Patrones, which reflected about a $90 million investment by TCA. So those two projects there, totaling about 130 million, are a demonstration of TCA's capabilities and our commitment to improving regional mobility. As we look forward, the number one project that we are really focused on is construction of the 241-91 express lane connectors. And this will provide direct connectivity between the 241 and the 91 express lanes and vice versa. So it's a great project that not only helps toll users, but it helps improve operations on the 91. So users who aren't paying a toll, who want to use the untolled portion, the general purpose lanes on the 91, they still get some benefits and reduced travel time for that trip between State Route 55 and I-15. So there are benefits in this for everyone. And it will be the first time in several decades that someone has an option to take a trip during peak commute times that is free flow without congestion, all the way from the city of Irvine to the city of Riverside. So it's a very exciting project. It's a complicated project. It's another example of how TCA partners. It's actually a four-way multi-county partnership. So we're working closely with Caltrans, the Orange County Transportation Authority, OCTA, and the Riverside County Transportation Commission to deliver this project and to partner on a suite of projects that are in the works on the 91, again, intended to improve that overall corridor and congestion. That project had so much value that our board of directors committed to fund it in its entirety at a cost of about $250 million. We were very supportive of our partners' ability in their request to try and seek grant funding, those state and federal dollars. But again, as our leaders did some 30 years ago, we recognized that those dollars might not be there. And we still wanted to make sure we controlled our fate and focused on self-reliance. So our board made that commitment of that $250 million. So I'm very excited that that project continues to move forward. And I'm very, I think we will all be excited when that project is complete and opens to traffic in 2025.
2025. Okay. That is very exciting, actually. As someone who does, I don't often go kind of that distance from Irvine to Riverside, but I do. It happens. I would say probably once every 6 weeks or so.
Right.
And so that would completely make my day. And I know a lot of people do make that commute. So that's amazing. That does bring up an interesting question that, perhaps I should know the answer to, but you can help me out. And what about, so your transponder or your fast track? So can you use that in all of California, or is that just in Orange County?
No, that's all of California. And this is a success story that all Californians should be proud of. Going back some 20 plus years now, our legislators and our various agencies work together to develop standards for interoperability. And, fancy technical term, but it means just what you described, that a customer with an account in San Diego can use that account to pay for tolls in the Bay Area and vice versa. So this capability exists throughout the state, and we're one of the first states and still one of the few states that have that capability. So the technology we have in place and the standards we use provide that user convenience, which is important. And it also represents a lot of innovation. I know earlier you talked about the sticker tag, and we were very excited to move forward with that. That might be more of a Southern California thing than Northern California somewhat. But we know Southern Californians, we like our cars and we like our vehicles to look good, but then we also like to save money. And this is especially true with TCA. We are very cost conscious and we are very conservative when it comes to our fiscal management. So that technology there allowed us to address customer preference and putting a device that's very low profile, a transparent sticker that you can put on your windshield and use that to link to your account and pay your tolls, which is important. But then from TCA's business perspective, those stickers cost us about 50 cents, where those hard case transponders in the past were costing us about $17. So there was significant savings, millions of dollars per year that TCA was able to save by helping advance and promote that technology throughout the state of California.
Well, I'm a fan.
Great.
I'm a fan. I do love the stickers, and I also have my my license plates registered, so we're all good.
That's important. I'm hoping all your listeners remember that as well, because we always want to make sure we charge you.
Register your license plate.
Register your license plate is the best way to guarantee you never get a violation.
Exactly, and it makes me happy.
Great.
So what fiscal impact will the pandemic have over your budget over, the short or long term? Will there be any staffing issues? I know we're heading into, I don't know if you guys are a fiscal year or a calendar year, but we're perhaps closing on both of those.
Yeah, we're fiscal year. So, our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30. And I apologize. I should have addressed this earlier when you asked me about some of the challenges of my new role. And looking at the fiscal aspects of our business was a challenge or an opportunity I had week one when the boards appointed me. Because of what was going on with the pandemic, we needed to completely revamp our budget from the ground up to, again, make sure we were looking at our fiscal conservative approach. And I was pleased to see that our elected officials on our board, and again, our board is comprised of our 18 member cities and 3 county supervisory districts. Our board members rolled up their sleeves side by side with staff, and we got into the gritty details of our budget to come up with a budget that focused on our priorities, minimizing costs wherever possible, but still advancing those capital projects. So we cut our non-debt service related budget by about 51%, which totaled about $77 million. So there were a lot of savings we put on the table. But those are the type of financial decisions that TCA has always made, again, focusing on our responsibilities to make sure we're paying back our debt and to make sure we are financially sound. As things move forward, we're watching our traffic and revenue very closely. Of course, I don't think anyone has a crystal ball that gives a strong indication of when we're going to get past these economic challenges. But TCA's fiscal decisions that we've made in the past, going all the way back to 2013, they positioned us well. We have a strong rainy day fund, which we may need to tap into a little this year. But as it stands right now, we're looking really good. And if the economic challenges continue into next fiscal year, we are prepared to weather that as well.
Oh, that's great to hear. And we talked a little bit about when you mentioned tolled and untolled, now budgets. What are your main revenue sources for the roads? Is the main revenue source the tolls, or is it also that combination?
So our revenue is solely focused on 2 sources, being the revenue we get from tolls and then developer impact fees. Developer impact fees make up a small portion of our overall revenue budget. So we are completely reliant on our revenue from tolls in order to cover the cost of operations, our capital program, and of course, making sure our debt service payments are on time and made in full.
Okay. How has transportation changed over the last several years? And how do you think it will evolve in the future as far as like tolls are concerned and, things like that?
Yeah, well, so, I think we've seen a lot of shifts that align with what we're seeing on the economic side. So, during the recession, transportation usage was down. And as our economies came back and were very strong, the increase in transportation usage grew as well. And I think we have to keep this in mind for the future. As our population grows, as housing, the number of homes in Orange County increase and the number of jobs in Orange County increase, we're going to always need good transportation infrastructure. And this comes down, again, to how do we pay for that transportation infrastructure? I think there's always going to be a role for a user fee-based model, whether that's VMT, vehicle miles traveled, or some other form or tolls, but our ability to pay for development and maintaining our transportation infrastructure is critical. It's critical to our way of life, and we can never lose sight of that. We always have to be planning for what the future for what the future looks like, and what we're going to need to support our ideal future. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'm surprised you didn't cite that, man, 5 years from now, it's going to take 5 years to deliver that project. Transportation infrastructure takes a while to put in, but there's a lot of good background work that has to be done on the planning side, design, looking at environmental impacts, which is very important in California. And all those things have to be done before we can get into construction. And then construction of a complicated facility like this does take some time. So that emphasizes the need for our leaders to always be looking out into the future and making sure we're making decisions today that support the kind of future we want to have.
That makes sense. The only reason I didn't ask, I think being a native Californian, I'm so used to, like, once you see the signs as something is coming, and it seems like those signs are up for years. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden one day you're like, okay, everything's closed.
Yeah.
It's like one day you're just, I can't go anywhere. Everything's
Right.
closed. So
Okay.
it's the native Californian in me.
Yeah. All right. No, but I think it's a great question, and again, I think our future is very important. And going back to the 91 corridor, in my selfish opinion, I think that's one of the most complicated corridors in the state.
Okay.
Our counties of Riverside and San Bernardino, they are still considered somewhat bedroom communities. We have a lot of folks who live there. The price of homes is lower than closer to the coast. So, but the jobs are here in Orange County and in LA. So we will continue to see the need for folks to move between counties so they can work where they want to work and to provide that mobility they need to get home.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
On a lighter note, we have seen many positive stories.
Uh-oh. Are you there, Berkenda?
During this time.
Oh, I'm sorry. You
Did I
cut out
freeze?
for a minute
I
there. I
did.
didn't hear your
Okay.
question. Okay.
Okay. Let me see if I can see my little box there. Okay. I think I'm good.
Okay.
I was saying, on a lighter note, we've seen so many good stories and positive stories about businesses stepping up to the plate, communities stepping up to the plate during the pandemic. Has there been anything that has surprised you or your agency, a pleasant surprise during this time?
Um, I won't say it was a surprise to me, but seeing us come together as a people to
Okay.
step up to these challenges and recognize the opportunities is what we all expect from Californians and Americans as a whole. So when we need to, we put our differences that may exist politically or even from a business competition standpoint, we put those things aside and focus on what's important, and that's our people. And TCA was definitely happy to share that focus as we try to do the best we could in protecting our people, their families, and our customers and our communities during the pandemic. So we made some great efforts in terms of our messaging during this time. Of course, with the governor's stay safe at home order, it was not a time for us to be out there promoting and trying to get folks to use the toll roads. That would counter what we're trying to do as a state in keeping people safe.
Right.
So we developed a communications plan, which I think was rather effective in making sure our customers got the information they needed from the appropriate sources. TCA is not an expert in this, and we clearly recognize that. But then we also use some of the great things we've done in the past and the things we're doing now to provide educational resources for parents who are working and trying to take care of their children at home. I recall those days, and luckily I'm past that. But we know that's definitely a challenging job, and my hat goes off to all the folks who are parents right now of young children dealing with this. We also made some adjustments in our business processes to recognize the economic challenges that some of our residents in Orange County were having. So, we adjusted the time that folks had to pay a toll, increasing that from 5 days to 10 days. We created flexibility with folks who needed payment plans if you might have received a violation, and we waived certain fees. So we tried to do a lot of things there, again, to recognize our role as a public agency and to make sure people understood that our priorities were properly set and we were focused on keeping our communities safe.
Okay, that makes sense. I have a question for you. So, speaking of community and people coming together, diversity is one of those, has become more of a hot topic lately. You are the first person of color to hold the position of CEO at the Transportation Corridor Agencies. And so now you are, one of the highest ranking leaders in this industry right now locally, responsible for an annual budget, I guess, average annual budget, it looks like about 400 million.
Mhm.
How do you feel about this remarkable achievement?
Well, I was very honored to be selected in April unanimously by both our boards of directors to serve in this role. I think that our hats should go off to them as well for recognizing that talent comes in all shapes, forms, sizes, and colors. So I'm very honored to be selected for this role. I am a big believer in diversity, not just because I'm part of an underrepresented community, but
Mhm.
because I believe in diversity of thought. The best solutions come from mindful discussions with folks who share different opinions and perspectives on things. And those different perspectives come from, how you were raised, where you were raised, and a variety of things. So when we focus on having diversity of thought, that leads you, if you appreciate that, then you're going to appreciate diversity of people. So again, I am very supportive of diversity of thought and those underlying components that you need to have that, which is, again, the diversity of people.
I agree with you. I
Okay.
completely agree. There's so many different facets of what diversity and inclusion look like. As far as your agency, do you feel that you guys are still advancing in your efforts for social and racial inclusion in your offices and in your workplace?
I think we are. We've taken some specific steps to make sure our culture of inclusion here at TCA remains strong and that we look for opportunities to improve it. And as long as there's statistical differences out there that reflect that some groups are better off than others, I don't think any organization should relinquish or pull back on those efforts. So I'm focused on continuing those efforts, whether it be in hiring or contracting. And I think we want to make sure we're getting the word out so that all folks, understand that there's a job opportunity here at TCA, and we're going to hire the most talented people we can. And that for businesses of all shapes and sizes, that they recognize that there are contracting opportunities here at TCA, and we're going to hire the best business we can to support us in our mission.
That's awesome. And that's a lot of work and a lot of pressure there, at this point, as far as like where we are in the world. So what do you do to relax and enjoy life? Completely moving away from the toll roads.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a pretty laid back guy. I don't get frazzled, by stress or things like that. As I mentioned, I view challenges as an opportunity.
Uh,
So I'm always looking at what's the upside of what's in front of us, whether that's a small speed bump, a tall hurdle, or a mountain. There's always an opportunity there. There's always a lesson learned. And I love to learn. I like learning about different things. I like learning about different perspectives. Again, back to the diversity of thought. So I pride myself in those things. I watch YouTube quite a bit to relax. I think I've got a couple of PhDs from YouTube University because there's so much stuff to learn out there. And I'm the proud owner. My wife and I are the proud owners of two new puppies, two Doberman puppies, which was a mistake. I would recommend to your audience, don't do that. Don't do
is,
that.
is getting that breed of dog a mistake or getting two of them?
Getting two puppies at the same time,
Okay.
especially large breed dogs, is a challenge. We got them when they were about 8, 9 weeks old, and they were nice
Okay.
and small. I could carry them in my hand. But here, 3 months later, they both weigh more than 50 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
And they can get into a little bit of trouble if you don't keep a close eye on them. And that breed of dog, they're working dogs. They were bred for a certain purpose. and they need a lot of activity and exercise, which means more time from you. So it was a great gift from our kids. We love them and appreciate them, but I would not recommend that anybody else take on that challenge.
So they're 50 pounds now. Is that going to be their top weight, or are they going to get bigger?
They're going to get bigger.
Oh,
The vet
wow.
says, for their breed type, they're probably going to be between 80 and 100 pounds.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
I'm sure at some point I'll have the same old saying, the old saying that they're eating me out of house and home. Hopefully they're just eating their dog food and they stop eating my shoes and the furniture.
I wish you the best with those dogs.
Thank you. Please pray for me.
That sounds like an undertaking.
It is.
And then also, I know that you're a new grandfather. Is that correct?
Yes, we are the proud grandparents of Zen, a small baby boy who's,
Okay.
good grief, what is he now? He is 16 months,
Aw.
and he's on a plane tomorrow morning to come visit us and spend Thanksgiving with us, which, I know we have our great advice from the CDC and our
Mhm.
health professionals on minimizing travel during this time.
Right.
But as grandparents with a grandchild that lives on the other side of the country, that's a very hard pill to swallow. We only get to see our grandkid in person. The last time we saw him was at Christmas.
Oh,
So,
wow. It's been a while.
yeah. So we're going to do the best we can to stay safe and enjoy our family bonds. And it's a tough decision, but it's the one we felt was best for our family.
That is perfectly okay. We hope you have a great time.
Thank you.
So we could talk about your board for a second. You mentioned that your boards are made up of those representing the cities. So if you can tell us how they represent us. I know that I believe our Mayor, Mark Murphy, is on your board. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Director Murphy is one of our best board members. He's very insightful. He's balanced. He's supportive of staff, but he challenges us daily. So he wants to make sure we're doing the right thing. So his entire demeanor, and his experience is an important part of contributions to our board. So we appreciate his service. In terms of our overall board, a lot of people probably don't recognize this, and it's not something we trying to make sure we educate people on a ton. But we actually have two different agencies here with a single staff that serves both agencies.
Okay.
So from the beginning, that was a setup, and that setup is focused on efficiency as one aspect with a single staff. But the governance model that was established by our visionary leaders 30 years ago wanted to emphasize this aspect of local control, and that the cities and the residents of those cities who would have the most to gain or would have the most impact from development of this transportation infrastructure, that they would have a say in controlling TCA. So overall, we have 18 member cities with an elected representative from each who serves on our board. And then we have our 3 county supervisory districts. And depending on where a city is located, they might have a seat both on the San Joaquin Hills Board, which oversees the 73, or the Foothill Eastern Board, which oversees the 241, 261, and the 133. So right now, with that distinction, I'm fortunate to have 24 bosses, all of which I fully respect and have great working relationships with. But that model of governance is very important to Orange County, and it's been a key part of our success. So the decisions that our boards are making have continued to build that financial footing I spoke to earlier, and also focused on our mission of improving mobility here in Orange County, and that is reflected in those projects I spoke to earlier.
That's a lot of bosses.
It is. They keep me on my toes, but I make sure to keep them informed because their input is important. Again, they are the elected officials of the residents of Orange County.
Right.
And we have a lot of strong leaders from Mayor Murphy to some of our board members who are now moving on to next stages in their lives, like Mayor Shea from the city of Irvine, Chuck Puckett from the city of Tustin, Lucille Crane from Anaheim. So a lot of great leaders that unfortunately we're going to lose, but we have a lot of great leaders who are still in our ranks, and those definitely include Director Murphy, Mayor Murphy, um, um, Trish Kelly from Mission Viejo, Will O'Neill from Newport Beach, Tony Beal from Santa Margarita. So lots of great folks. I mean, and you're testing me. I'm trying to remember all 24 of my bosses.
Sorry, it wasn't meant to be a test.
No, it's good. It's good. And definitely our three county supervisors. And
Right.
you know, by and large, they work together very well as a team. And I always appreciate it when, you know, locally elected officials, when they come to a regional body, that they put on the right hat, right?
Right.
And it's, you know, a lot of that discussion you can see out on the internet about a representative of or a representative for, right? So when our local elected officials come to the TCA boards, they have on their regional hat. And that's important because they, you know, they are representatives of their city, but they are representing the region. And I think
Right.
this is important, especially when it comes to transportation infrastructure. So we've been very fortunate in that regards to have talented leaders from our elected officials who serve on TCA, and they're going to continue to make good decisions as we move into the future.
That's amazing. That is awesome. I'm glad that you pointed out that they represent not only their city, but they also are looking out for the good of the county. So it's nice that you do have representatives from everywhere that can come together and see how traffic is flowing and what works best. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
What can businesses do, or the chamber specifically, because we're here
Uh-huh.
on behalf of the chamber,
Right.
to support your agency? What can we do,
Right.
especially with the 91? Like, is there anything that we can do for you guys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the chamber is a great partner, and we love working with you guys. You were key. You know, I talked about our COVID communications plan and what we were doing. You
Mhm.
were key in supporting that, and you were also key in helping us disseminate information about the impacts of the Silverado fire. So we would love to be able to continue those partnerships. And then, you know, what you're doing today in allowing TCA to share some factual information about our agencies and what's going on, that's critically important. You know, I'll be forthright. One of my biggest challenges as CEO of TCA is combating all the misinformation and disinformation that's floating about the agency.
Okay.
A lot of people, you know, take what they hear on the internet, and sometimes they take it as gospel, which in today's world I would never recommend. So, and we've seen where some people understand that and they use it as a tool for their own selfish purposes. So you do have people who will put out false information intentionally, and it creates issues and works against good civil discourse. So we want to make sure when we're talking about issues, we're focused on the issues and not the red herring approach to debate that just seeks to undermine the deliverer of a message versus focusing on the message and its importance directly. So partnering with the chamber, continuing to share information about the great work that TCA is doing, our great history, how it's helped make OCTA or Orange County successful, and our future projects are some key opportunities that I would love for our agency to continue working with the chamber on.
We would love to continue working with you guys. So please always, you know how to reach us.
Yes,
Definitely
absolutely.
make sure we're in the loop on anything that you guys need assistance with, for sure.
Okay, we can do that.
And I wanted to ask you, so you mentioned you've been in the industry for a very long time, and I've heard that you enjoy mentoring those who wish to enter the tolling industry and have created an internship program. Would you
Mhm.
mind telling me a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, in terms of mentoring, there are two aspects that I'm really focused on. Education. I think most of us recognize that education is the great enabler. It helps folks rise to higher levels, and that's important that we support that. So I'm always a big supporter of scholarship programs. I actively support WTS and their efforts, and that gives me an opportunity to combine what my thoughts about diversity and my thoughts about education. And then mentoring is an important part of keeping talented folks in our industry.
Right.
So, you know, when we get talent, we want to be able to court talented folks into transportation and especially government. That's very important. And then we want to help them be successful and identify our next round of leaders who will be there to guide us in the future. So I've worked through my capacity as president of our International Trade Association, the International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike, to establish what we call our tolling immersion program. And this is somewhat industry specific, but it builds upon our great scholarship efforts, which we've been able to advance, and we are awarding 8 scholarships this year. But we also wanted to incorporate an internship program, which allows students who are still in college the opportunity to work for both a public agency and one of our private industry partners as an overall program within one summer session. So you get to experience and learn a lot about the tolling industry, and you get to see opportunities to work in government and to work in private industry. And I think, pulling back the curtain a little bit and letting folks see what those opportunities are helps them make good decisions. And again, we think tolling is a great industry. It's a great payment model for transportation infrastructure. And we got some really great people in our industry. So attracting the best and the brightest to our industry is important. And then the mentoring that goes along with that to help them be successful once they're in the door and to identify our future leaders is also important. So I'm happy to support those efforts overall. Uh-oh, I think you're on mute, Berkenda.
I am muted, sorry.
That's okay.
Is that something that you have posted on your website for the scholarships and the internship?
Yes, and in fact, we recently added the 3 of those 8 scholarships I mentioned. So we already awarded 5 to talented students around the country, and I think we may have one that's abroad as well because we are an international organization. We have over 250 members across 26 countries and 6 continents. So it's a big organization. So we've awarded 5, and we're in the process of awarding 3 additional. And the 3 additional ones were focused on trying to promote diversity and advance our messaging there. So we've identified and raised funds to award 3 scholarships to students attending historically Black colleges and universities. So that process is in the works right now, and that information is on our website. If anyone knows a student who's attending one of those universities and is interested in applying. And definitely the information on the overall tolling immersion program is on IBTTA's website as well. And that's ibtta.org.
So what I will do is once we're off and we've got the replay up, I will make sure to list those in the replay description so that if anybody wants to follow up on that, they can do so. I know right now people are at home. We're heading into a holiday time, so it's a good time to have information for people to look at and learn and educate themselves. I also want to just kind of note, when I was looking at the website, I was just making sure all of my toll road information was up to date before I spoke to you today, and it is. But I was looking at your COVID information. You mentioned that about partnering and putting out information. I love the way that you guys transition. You're like, hey, we're not the best person to get this information from about COVID. Like, go over here to our partner agency. But then also you had those great tools for kids and adults. I noticed you have coloring pages. There were, was it word searches, crossword puzzles? So just everyone out there know that there's some fun stuff on the Toll Roads website.
There is some fun stuff. There's some very educational stuff, because when our roads were constructed, we found a lot of prehistoric fossils. And we've been able to support the museum in Anaheim, and they have some of our stuff on display. And even here at our headquarters building, we have some of those cool fossils in the lobby for folks to see. And when we were making those findings, we developed some of those educational resources many years ago. So we were able to dust those things off, refresh them, and provide them for folks during this time. Because again, it's great educational information about Orange County and our history, so people can get a feel for that and have some fun doing it.
Yes, I know Museo well. I actually am a director there, so I've seen what you guys have on display there. It's amazing, and I hope that we're able to get that into a format where it can be shared with everyone. We opened last weekend and we're closed promptly, so hopefully we can get some videos and virtual pieces out for educating everybody on what you guys have contributed to the exhibit.
Thank you, and thank you for your partnership with that organization as well.
You're welcome. How do you ensure the natural beauty of the area around the TCA roads? It's always so gorgeous.
It is. And you know what? This is an area where probably TCA should pat ourselves on the back a little more because our commitment to the environment is very strong. And this is an important aspect of transportation that we all have to recognize, finding that balance between development for what we need as humans and what we need from an environmental standpoint with habitat and species is extremely important. So TCA, right now, we're responsible for managing about 2,000 acres of open space at various locations throughout the county. And that's a big part of our program and what we've done to protect some of our environmental resources here in the county. We do a lot to protect native habitat and plants, and also various species. Some key aspects of our efforts around our environmental program include wildlife undercrossings and wildlife fencing. Both of these elements help minimize impacts between vehicles and animals that may get out on the roadway, whether they be mountain lions, deers, or other animals. And it also helps promote the ongoing life of those species. So I think some of you may have heard that there were some challenges in the natural migration path of mountain lions.
Yes.
And that was leading to a lot of inbreeding and a decline in that overall species. So our undercrossings that we've built along various locations are the Foothill Eastern Corridor, are helping promote those natural migration paths and therefore support the continued development and evolution of that species. So we're proud of all our efforts there. We work hand in hand with the folks in the Environmental Coalition. This is reflected in a historic agreement that TCA did many years ago for the areas down at the southern end of the county, the San Onofre State Beach and the O'Neill Conservancy. We entered into a partnership with those folks to make sure those rare and unique resources, which are rare and unique throughout the state, that those were protected. And I was personally pleasantly pleased to see that our state legislators also thought that was important. And they enacted a law which was passed and signed by the governor this past session to permanently protect those resources. So TCA has always sought to find that balance between, again, what we need as humans and protecting what we need in terms of habitat and wildlife species.
Well, thank you for that. It's a gorgeous drive on any of those toll roads. So it definitely does not go unnoticed, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Samuel, we are at the end of the hour, and I know that you probably have a busy day. Anything final that you'd like to add from your agency?
Well, I think Orange County has a great story to tell. Our quality of life should definitely be appreciated, and folks should not get into what have you done for me lately attitude. This is the time of year where we all typically look back and reflect on the good things we have. And our quality of life in Orange County is definitely one of those things we should appreciate. And our investments in transportation are part of that quality of life and have got us to a really good point. So as we look forward to the future, I think we want to continue to protect our quality of life and make sure we're finding that right balance of what we need from our transportation networks, what we need from an environmental standpoint, and how we can pay for the cost of those items. So I think we've got a bright future in front of us, and I look forward to TCA being part of it.
Thank you, and we look forward to it as well.
Thank you very much.
We so appreciate your taking your time with us today. We're glad we were able to host you. This is our final Eggs and Issues for the year. So you were our last guest this year. We appreciate that. Next year, we are going to be hosting as our first guest, Gaddy Vasquez. You'll be with us in January. Okay. And then just a couple closing things. I wanted to show you guys really quickly if you do want to look at any of the websites that we mentioned today. So if you'd like to get a hold of the chamber, we are here. We'll be here this week. I think we're closed on Thursday, but other than that, we're here. Well, orangechamber.com. If you need anything from the City of Orange, cityoforange.org. Anything from the Transportation Corridor Agencies, that is the tollroads.com. As far as our next events, as I mentioned, we have Eggs and Issues that's going to be hosted on January, I believe it's the 24th. Don't hold me to it. It's the 4th Tuesday of January. That's Gaddy Vasquez. For our business networking group, that meets twice monthly, the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We are going to be dark on December 2nd. However, we are going to be live on December 16th, live meaning virtual. So we're working on an amazing holiday format for you guys. So please go onto our Facebook or our website and sign up to join us on December 16th. That'll be from noon to 1. We'd love for all of you guys. It's open to all the community and our members, of course. Please join us on that day. With that, I say farewell. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a happy holiday. Stay safe. Be well. We will see you next year.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, all. Thank you.
Good.